All right, guys, so this is your lesson for Thursday. I wanted to give you a heads up as to what it is you're going to be doing in class today. So hopefully when you walked in, you grabbed this sheet from the front table to help you with what today's activity is going to be about. If I was to set the stage for what it is you're going to be learning about today, I would say that in the last couple of days, we've obviously learned that the colonists and the British at this point are, kind of at a point where gunfire has erupted at Lexington and Concord. Some colonists have died, some of the British soldiers have died. So we now know that we are almost at the brink of war between the British and the colonists. And one of the things that's going to happen is the Second Continental Congress, which is a second meeting of these new colonial leaders, guys like John Adams and Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, Thomas Jefferson, names we've already talked about. They're going to get together at the Second Continental Congress and realize that they need to establish a new army. They know that Lexington and Concord, where the colonists kind of grabbed their guns and left their homes and faced off against the British, they know that that was not sustainable. That's not going to be something they're going to be able to do for the entire war. So the Second Continental Congress will meet, and their job is to try and find somebody who's going to be able to lead this new Continental Army that the Americans are going to have to put forward. So what you're going to do is I'm going to step out of the way for a moment, and you can press pause on your video. And what I want you to do is to copy down the notes that you see here. Now, up here in blue, those are the notes that are going to go in the box that says reasons why the Second Continental Congress met, and you'll jot those down. The information in red, information about the Continental Army, is going to go right down here on the bottom box. And then in gray or black print here where it says reasons why Washington would be the best commander-in-chief, you're going to go ahead and jot that down up here in this box right here. All right, so I'm going to step out of the way for a moment. Your job right now is to just press pause, and hopefully you should be able to zoom in and see those. If you can't, ask somebody next to you that might see them better. But I'll get out of your way. You're going to press pause for a minute or two, jot these notes down, and then I'll be back in a second. All right, hopefully now as you are done with the notes and you press pause again, you'll understand now what it is that you're going to do with these notes. So what I want you to do at this point is you're going to take out a sheet of paper, a separate sheet of paper, and on that separate sheet of paper, what I'm going to have you do is you're going to imagine that you are John Adams, that you are at the meeting of the Second Continental Congress. And it is your job, the Second Continental Congress has given it the responsibility to you to write George Washington a letter to try and convince him to be the leader of the Continental Army. And so when you write this letter, what you're going to basically be doing is, I'll jump up one slide, I'll actually go back to the notes here so you can see this. What I would do is on a separate sheet of paper, just basically, dear George Washington. And then you're going to have 3 separate paragraphs. In paragraph number 1, you're going to tell him what is the purpose of this letter. I would simply start by saying, dear George, I'm writing you to inform you that the Second Continental Congress has met in Philadelphia. And here's why we met. And what I would do is just try to use some voice to kind of get these bullets into your letter. We met, obviously, to try and plan actions to respond to what happened at Lexington and Concord. So that's paragraph number 1 in your own words. Then you're going to skip a line on your sheet and go to paragraph number 2. And here's where you will tell George Washington about this new Continental Army that the Second Continental Congress is establishing. And you're going to tell him something about the men that are going to be fighting in this new Continental Army. Colonists who are motivated to protect their homes and land. These are guys that know the land very well. You're trying to convince George Washington to be the leader of this. So you want to try and sell him on the fact that this is going to be a really big army, a good army, full of colonists ready to fight. After you've done that, you'll then skip a line and then go into the 3rd paragraph. And in that 3rd paragraph, you're going to tell him, here's why we think, George Washington, you would be the best leader of the Continental Army. And you can say, we love the fact that you have military experience, that you're very well respected, so on and so forth. And you'll do that as well. So I would say each of these paragraphs need to be at least 3 to 4 sentences. And it needs to be a letter where you're trying to persuade or convince George Washington to be the commander-in-chief of the Army. So after you've taken the notes, and if you're able to finish the letter in class, what I'm going to have you do is, if you want to do this and get some extra credit, You can grab a piece of computer paper. There should be some up here on the table. and you're going to split this piece of paper in half and kind of make like the front of an envelope. And so you can give another half to somebody else. You can split it and maybe give the other half to somebody else in your row. So basically what your front of your letter would be just like this. And if you want to do this for extra credit, you totally can. And what your letter or your envelope should look like is you would have an address of who it's going to. In this case, it's George Washington, 1600 Virginia Street, Mount Vernon, Virginia. So I'll get out of the way so you can see that. You can press pause and write that down if you need to. In the upper, my right, your left-hand corner, that'll be who you're addressing this to, which is, or who this is coming from, rather. This is the return address, which is you, John Adams. So in case this letter ever got lost in the mail, it would go back to where it came from. So John Adams, 100 Liberty Way, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now the good part of the extra credit here is if you want to decorate or design a stamp that can be related to the time period we've been learning about. Anything about the American Revolution, the Tea Party, the Boston Massacre, whatever you want, this would be a colored stamp that you can do and attach to your letter, either through staple or paperclip. And that's what you will eventually turn into me when I return back on Monday. So that's what you're doing in class today. Taking those notes down, writing that letter, and then designing this envelope for extra credit if you want. All right? Good luck, guys, and make sure you keep yourselves busy throughout class.